My name's Chris Beaty, and I like telling stories. Some of my stories are funny, some of them are dumb, but if I do it right, they're all entertaining. This is As Told by C.S. Beaty. This story is about the history of my lovely hometown, Grand Island, Nebraska. The island of misfit boys. We have nothing but prairie. Henrich Egge, early Grand Island settler. I grew up in Grand Island, Nebraska. If the name of our town is confusing to you, I understand. I've heard all the jokes and have made them myself. It's not an island, and it's not grand. This isn't the official city motto, but it might as well be. It would pair nicely with the state of Nebraska's official tourism slogan, "Honestly, it's not for everyone." Yes, us Grand Islanders are fully aware of just how unremarkable we are, and we've come to terms with it. When I joined Facebook in 2008, our city couldn't be selected as an option for hometown in your profile. So most of us just picked the closest alternative of Grand Island, New York. What's a single letter difference in a state abbreviation? Nebraskans get sick of hearing how boring their state is when they introduce themselves. If Omaha is good enough for Warren Buffett, it should be good enough for the snobby Southwest Airlines passenger crammed into the middle seat who feels obligated to ask you where you're from. But honestly, once you get past the second entry in the list of city populations, it's kind of true. According to year 2000 census data, the year I turned 10 and was given a cool Census 2000 lapel pin from my 4th grade teacher, there were only 2 towns in Nebraska with populations larger than the 85,000 people who filled Memorial Stadium in Lincoln each Saturday to watch Husker football. ESPN loved this factoid, and us Central Nebraskans were thrilled to see the name of our city publicly shamed in a TV graphic each week listing the game attendance next to population figures of Nebraska residences. Every small town has its thing, that unique identity that sets you apart on billboards and gas station pamphlets from all the other small towns that are otherwise facsimiles of one another. The 24,064 citizens of Hastings, Nebraska, celebrate themselves as the birthplace of Kool-Aid and hold an annual festival that boasts the world's largest Kool-Aid stand. North Platte, Nebraska, with its 23,871 people, is also a birthplace, but not of a delicious drink adored by millions, rather the used-to-be-famous showman Buffalo Bill. It doesn't matter that he's buried in Cody, Wyoming, and the Buffalo Bills football team is in New York. North Platte gets to keep them. But if dead cowboys aren't your thing, North Platte has also capitalized on the fact that they're conveniently located off Interstate 80 with the "Get closer to where you're going" tourism slogan encouraging stopovers on the way to Denver. The hideous stepchild in Nebraska is Kearney, where 27,431 people made a terrible life choice by living there. You may know the place from the Oregon Trail 8-bit video game and buying supplies at Fort Kearney. The fort was christened after Stephen W. Kearney, but the dumbasses spelled the name wrong when they named their town. Grand Island and Kearney don't get along. And then there's us, the 42,940 Grand Islanders. In 4th grade history, we were taught the superhero origin story of our great municipality. Sort of. I got the impression it was more of a generalization that Mrs. Saunder did from a historical marker she once read while pulled over to let her dog pee. Located in the middle of the Platte River, there was once a big-ass island. How big? No one knows. It doesn't exist anymore. It probably never did. But as settlers traveled across country in their covered wagons, they would reference Le Grand Isle. Why were all the settlers French? Can't help you with that one either. Why were the French settlers so bad at French, since the Grand Island in French is actually Ile Grande? Seriously, stop asking so many questions. My 4th grade self never bothered to ask about these details. Ambition and curiosity don't really have a place in Grand Island. And my 4th grade self didn't get a dog until he moved away to the city of Omaha, so that Rosetta Stone of roadside markers has yet to be rediscovered. Regardless, the Le Grand Isle town name stuck and got de-Frenched. And then people's wagons broke down, or they got bored, or had to use the bathroom and pulled over, but one way or another ended up living not on this Grand Island, but kind of in the general area. And now we have a town. The reason no one definitively knows where the town name came from is because no one really cares about anything in Grand Island. People just kind of exist there. It's a very conservative town, which I never minded, except when this brand of conservatism seemed to spill into a general lack of ambition overall, which I did mind. When my high school classmate David Nance moved away and started a moderately successful rock band, he described our hometown in an interview as more or less a strip mall, so basically any town USA. And the type of people who settle in Grand Island are the type who love strip malls. That's not to say Grand Island wasn't full of good people. Nothing could be further from the truth. They were salt of the earth types. They weren't simple in a pejorative sense either, just in a statement of fact sort of way. I once had a coworker in his late 40s say he would never move from his farm outside city limits into Grand Island proper because, quote, GI is just too big. When I mentioned I had vacationed to New York City, he was incredulous. He gave me a look as if I told him I had taken a trip to one of Jupiter's moons. It was equal parts disbelief you could actually go there and disbelief that I was still alive upon my return. It's kind of a lot of people like that. But even that description is a bit misleading because as a farmer, this guy knew who he was at heart, and he leaned into that. Most of us Grand Islanders don't. At least I didn't know who I was, and the people I spent time around didn't either. The town proper has a population slightly under 50,000, and none of us are farmers. Some of us know farmers, but most are completely clueless about agriculture. I still don't know what a silo is for. I once asked a farmer what they put inside a silo, and he replied, silage, which didn't help. To complicate things, Grand Islanders are not farmers in a state where everyone is assumed to be. All the non-farmers are supposed to live in Omaha or Lincoln. Yes, we have cornfields next to our mall and our cemetery and pretty much any vacant lot. You kind of forget about them. And once a year, my parents took us to a farm supply store on Baby Bird Day, the day when they sold freshly hatched chicks and ducklings to people who needed to buy freshly hatched chicks and ducklings. We never bought any, but there is no greater day than the day you can pick up a baby duckling from under a heat lamp clamped to the side of a corrugated feed trough and hold it as if it were your own. My sister did buy my brother-in-law a full-grown chicken as an engagement present, though. And my church hosted a harvest party in place of a Halloween party. All of us kids dressed up in costumes, played games, and asked for candy. If this feels like a Halloween party, you're wrong. Halloween is for the devil. At our church, we celebrated harvest. And our party just happens to get scheduled each year on the Wednesday night prior to October 31st. It's just a coincidence, okay? But other than that, there's nothing farm-related about us. Grand Island has a few things uniquely ours. The most satisfying bout of diarrhea you'll ever have comes after you taste the delicious chili dogs of the Coney Island lunchroom. At least that's the restaurant name according to the neon sign outside shaped like a chili dog. The menu, 90th anniversary drink koozies, and the banner for the racehorse they sponsor all say Coney Island Cafe, but never cafe with an accent at E. I don't think anyone is aware of the inconsistency. We just call it Coney Island. The food here cannot be improved, unless you're an out-of-towner. Then you might be mistaken that a boiled hot dog covered in sliced onions, mustard, and meat product that is 3/4 hamburger grease isn't a delicacy. And you'd be wrong. The place opened in 1933, and little has changed since. The owner is the third-generation George Katruzis, who took the restaurant over from his dad, Gus Katruzis, who took the place over from his dad, George Katruzis. George Jr. doesn't have any kids and no clear succession plan, but he at least caved and started hiring people who weren't related to him to make French fries. They're not allowed to touch the pot of chili, though. That's a job for a Katruzis. My Coney Island order is 2 conies with everything, plate of fries, strawberry malt, guided out with a spoon. Despite the local establishments that have been there forever, progress in Grand Island is marked by the arrival of new chain restaurants. With each Buffalo Wild Wings or Qdoba, we felt one step closer to being a big boy. Especially if the chain came to GI prior to hated rival Kearney, Nebraska. Yeah, fuck you, Kearney. My life changed forever when Applebee's and Perkins showed up. Applebee's became my special date destination with my mom. Perkins was our new Sunday after church spot. I refuse to eat at either now, but back then I didn't know there was something better. I didn't need to know. The arrival of chain restaurants represented stability in a town whose goal is to simply exist. That could be a marketable slogan. Grand Island, we exist. Whatever version of island life we lived, it was all we knew. It's not that we didn't want to change, we just assumed we weren't allowed to. Our little town was insulated from the cultural influence that cross-pollinate big cities. So we kept up the old ways as long as we could and assumed they would last forever. And in the meantime, if you want to throw us a few new fast food franchises along the way, it would mean a lot to us. There's a flavor of cynicism when I describe my birthplace, which isn't intentional, but I can't help it. To many Nebraskans, Grand Island was a destination. State Senator Colby Coash said he would travel, quote, 3 hours south to Grand Island to have my braces tightened. It was a treat for him to stop at the Conestoga Mall, since he could buy Metallica cassettes and get his ears pierced. Services his hometown of Bassett, with a population of 1,010, didn't offer. I'm not ashamed of where I'm from, and I'm protective of it, but kind of in an only I get to talk like that about where I come from kind of way. I wanted to get out for as long as I can remember, and I've never wanted to go back once I did. Grand Island made me who I am, and I've never desired to be anyone else, but I did feel meant for something else. Somewhere else. As Told by C.S. Beaty is written and produced by Chris Beaty. This episode about my hometown of Grand Island, Nebraska, was an excerpt from my memoir about being a loser in high school, titled, you guessed it, Loser. If you want to listen to more chapters, I have a few on my website, csbeaty.com. But better yet, read the book! It even comes with pictures that I paid somebody a shit ton of money to make for me. To download the entire audiobook, also check out csbeaty.com/loser, or ask your library to buy a copy. They'll do it if you ask nicely. Signing off from the greatest city on earth, Omaha, Nebraska. Sorry, Grand Island.